Hey everybody, how are you all doing? It is Monday.
Monday.
A bit of a different Monday for Ian today, though.
I'm back to work.
He is back in the salon.
I just deafened everybody.
Jealous, mate. But we're gonna chat about it anyway, because Katrina, I've seen the comments. She has asked about how was it back in the salon, so we'll get on to that.
Yeah.
But tonight is just going to be a Q&A. It was going to be, sorry.
Oh God, you're going to shame me now.
I was supposed to be doing a colour.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be doing a colour tonight, but
yeah.
The mannequin head just didn't turn up.
Yeah, kind of a technical hitch.
The postman.
It's going to be there first thing in the morning, though.
Yeah, that's cool. So
I can't believe I've been admiring it for such a long time. It was such a great haircut. I was like, I just can't let it go.
Just liking the sunglasses.
I just loved it. The sunglasses were the winners. Yeah, definitely.
So we've got Katrina in. My mum's in as always. So Katrina, will bring her up. There's Katrina. Go and subscribe to her channel because she does education as well. Hairdresser from Ireland. We've got my mum, who's in here every week.
Hi, Suzanne. Happy belated Mother's Day for yesterday. I hope he spoiled you.
We did, yeah, did.
Good boy.
We've got Tony. Tony's here every week as well.
Tony's great.
So, yeah, today's going to be a Q&A. I was supposed to be doing a hair colour. I'll just say it again. But Ian didn't send the mannequin. But I'll be doing that next Monday, just so you all know. But tonight, we're just going to talk about... So, Ian's back in the salon. Katrina has already asked the question, how was it to be back? So, we're going to jump into that. Anthony has just joined. Hey, Anthony. And we're just going to have an evening of questions. So, get your questions into us, guys. Anything. We've got a few questions that have been sent to us this week about... trends, perms, and then somebody asked us about self-employed or employed salon. So we've got that to answer as well. And there's my mum, really spoiled.
Your mum was spoiled?
Yes, she's just come up and said it.
Good. Yeah, she deserves it too. I bet. Of course, she deserves to be spoiled. Absolutely.
So we've had a question come in already, but we're just going to jump to Katrina's first. And I'm just going to check my phone, just waiting to see if we've got someone else coming on tonight. I'm just waiting to see if they've checked their messages to join us.
This is kind of an intrigue.
So yeah, Katrina has said, how was it back in the salon today?
Yes, good question. It was fantastic just to get my hands back on hair. I loved meeting my client, and it's really funny because like I've been doing it a long time, as you know, and I've got such a friendship with my clients that it really was like hooking up with friends. So I felt a bit naughty that, you know, because we still technically in Wales we can only meet with 2 people from another household. So today technically I've met with like 10 people. Which is like, you know, my own personal clients. The salon was full of other people's clients, but as well, who I also know. But it was great just to reconnect with everybody. The energy was really high. Just really lost myself in my work and just enjoyed the whole day. It was fantastic. Loved being back. Yeah, same as usual. Mask, visor, wipe downs, all this stuff. It just seems second nature now. Just going to do it. It's easy. And the team are well fixed into it. So it's been brilliant, you know, really brilliant. So we're really enjoying that. That's fantastic. So I've just had a fantastic day, just reconnecting with everybody. The team were really good, but they were nothing fazed them now. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But there's a controversy.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think so. We've had clients from England wanting to come over to Wales to get the hair done. 8 clients today. Last count 8 at about 4 p.m. So,
wow. Naughty.
You want to know what I said?
What did you say?
I said no.
Yeah,
I did. The first client actually gave it away. He said, look, I'm from England. Can I come over? And I just said, no, you're on lockdown and that's not allowed. You can't travel out your area anyway. And I explained, I wasn't rude or anything. I just said, oh, unfortunately, we can't do that because Wales is different, and we have been, and I don't want to put anybody in jeopardy in Wales by you coming out of your area. Also, it'd be really fantastic if you were just a little bit more patient, supported your usual hairdresser, because I know they're going to need it, and they're going to rely. And she was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to go back. I'm definitely going to go back. So there was no incentive for me to have her over anyway, because she was only using this forever, and we couldn't have fitted it in anyway for another 2 or 3 weeks. So you might as well wait, because you're in 3 weeks' time you're open. So when she could have got an appointment with us, it would have been your time to open. I just hope everybody in Wales will be faced with those questions from, especially we're so close to the border in Cardiff. I just hope people are maintaining the same sort of integrity and supporting their colleagues across the bridge in their lockdown, because I would hate to take business from somebody who are unable to trade at the moment. I just don't think that's really good. I'm jealous of her back. I'm sorry. I am a bit smug. It's great though. It is great to be back. Thanks, Louise.
Cool. Right.
So that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super jealous, as everybody is, just to get back and be doing humans. The one thing I'm not looking forward to, but before I go into it, we have got a guest on tonight. She's just joined us, and Lee Shaw. So we'll bring her in, and we'll let her do a little intro. Then we'll jump on to the questions and what we were going to say to Ian just then. But here's Lee.
Yay!
Hi everyone.
How
you
are
good? You? Yeah, I'm all right now. God.
Was your husband making you tea again?
No, don't ask. My daughter's got a hospital appointment on Thursday, and you have to go for a COVID test 3 days before.
Yeah.
So ideally, I would have been home about 20 minutes ago, but I got pulled over.
Did you?
I'm currently sat in the car. It's been one of those days.
What did you get pulled over for?
Because we had to go to Southampton, which is like an hour and a bit away from where I am.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not meant to be out of my area, and I just had to say, she's down here. It's not my fault. And so apologies. I'm on my phone rather than the laptop. And then I was pressing the link, and it was taking me to the an articles page. I was like, oh my god. But I'm here. I'm here.
Cool. Yes, we just did like a little intro as to what we're going to do. Q&A tonight. We've got a few questions already from the guys who are watching, and we've got some from this week as well. But just intro yourself, and then we'll jump back straight into Ian because he's open.
Hi, I'm Lee Shaw. I am a salon owner, and I am also like a Joico user, like the lads. And yeah, I've been hairdressing for 20 years, and I know the topic that we're discussing tonight is quite a juicy one, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Got lots coming in, definitely. So, Lee, you've been Joico user that for a while. I know that, but more importantly, you're becoming really big on your socials and stuff right now, getting a bit of traction, as they say.
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit. Oh, yeah, just a little bit. So, tell me what's been the catalyst to that? What's kind of made you, really get after your socials?
Do you know what it was? It was about, oh God, I've lost track of years, quite honestly, after last year. I'm trying to think when I went to, 2 years ago I went over. So about 3 years ago, there was somebody who's on the Joico team who, funnily enough, I actually speak to quite a lot now, but I didn't know her then. Katrina Kelly.
Yeah. She's already asked. She's already spoken.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, that's she. Okay, yeah. So. Oh God, now she's going to hear me talk about her. So anyway, she went over to LA. So she was taken over to LA by Joico. And it was for the launch of, I think it was the launch of Defy Damage or something, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And her stories were just full of like everything like to do with Joico and like what they were doing over there, and like there was just so much. And I watched it, and I remember saying to my husband at the time, I was like, I'm absolutely going to be doing that. Like that's my goal, is to do that. And cool. We had to do a presentation for the fellow. I actually wrote on my thing that my goal is to, eventually like long term, my goal is to obviously join you guys hopefully one day and be on like the artistic team or something along those lines. And I wanted to go to LA to the main Joico headquarters and see like the world of Joico. And then obviously a year later, I ended up there, and that is when I think everything kind of kicked off a little bit.
What do you think of Arcadia?
It's interesting. Yeah, no, it's good. It's just it's different over there. The whole way of working is very different. So
Yeah, hugely. We're going to talk about that later as well. So
yeah,
as part of the topic, it's going to come up. I know, going to come up later.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So because you went to Larissa Love's salon as well, right?
Yeah, we were there for a day. So
Paul's best friend. You do know Paul's best friends with Larissa Love, right?
are you? Interesting. No, I didn't know that at all.
We're not besties. We
What?
get
Shut up, BFF.
She's really
when she came over to London, she only wanted Paul to cut her hair and colour her hair for her.
To be fair, she does talk quite highly of like generally the British and Irish like teams.
Yeah.
I think she obviously.
Well, Paul is her official UK hairdresser. How's that?
Not a bad job to have, eh? No,
He's
you
nearly
know what, she's
blushing.
lovely. I don't know what I expected either, you know, because you see people on social media and you get this idea of what they're like, and I don't really know what I was expecting her to be like. And she was just the sweetest, loveliest person, and really like just open. And finished the day, it's like, do you want to come out for dinner? Do you want to come out for drinks? It's like, okay. And just completely and utterly like normal. There was no ego with her or anything, which I don't know whether I was surprised. So I guess I was a little bit. I thought being that huge that you know maybe she'd have. We had
her on last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
She came on our live. She was sat in that chair where you are now, but not in her car, obviously. But she was in that spot last year. Yeah. So we've had quite a few good people there. So it's nice to have you on board finally.
It'll be nice to like once everyone's traveling again and things like that, like having her back over or going the other way, whichever it may be.
So tell me, your focus with your you set yourself a goal, you went out and did it. Your focus with your socials are what then? What's your main goal?
My kind of next focus is moving sort of, I guess it's just like a natural progression. It's like moving into the education side of things. And I've really held off doing it because I'm, as you're probably aware, I'm quite opinionated on the fact that of educators in the industry. And I think
go on.
I actually had this conversation the other day again with Katrina. Like, I just think some people are made to be hairdressers and some just shouldn't go on to be educators.
Yeah, you said this last Friday when I was listening to you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of educators now, which is great in the fact if there's loads and they're good at what they do, but there's also a lot that really should just be hairdressers. And I wanted to make sure that I was at a point in my career with my skill and knowledge and everything that went with it that I was going to be one of the educators that I look up to and like, rather than just an educator, another one that's jumped on the bandwagon kind of thing.
So, I think that
that's my next step.
I think at the moment within the industry, I think there are a lot of people say they're educators and basically all they're doing is showing and telling.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It becomes a show and tell, not education.
Yeah.
And there's a real difference between becoming somebody who shows and tells and giving education. And you mentioned Katrina, and like I am such a massive fan of Katrina, not just because she gets me onto. I'm same as you. I'm not just because I'm on her clubhouse, and she's like, she's really been endorsing my views, which I'm really, I'm just blown away by. But she is such an honest, knowledgeable, very professional woman who is, no bullshit. It is what it is. And I love all that about her. But I think she sort of says that what an educator is there to do is to add value to someone, to bring added value into somebody's creativity or into their knowledge or into the, just making them think differently and adding a value that they then will depend on later. But a lot of educators, which as you were saying, it's like they show and tell. There's nothing behind it. It's all veneer. And unfortunately, in our industry, we do have a lot of people with big egos. And no, I have an ego. I'm well aware of an ego. I'm not saying I don't have an ego. I definitely have an ego. But I know when it's time to use it and let the ego have its moment, and the time when it's out of control type of thing. And it took me a long time to understand that. So a lot of people do this education to satisfy their ego.
Oh,
and I think that's about showing off. And I don't want. I've done that. Like for too long, actually, I did that. And now I don't give a toss, if I'm honest, about showing off. I just want to show you and help you become better at what I know. So that if I can share that with you and you get some value from it, then that's me done. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think like educators in general, I think a good educator is when you can go back to it a few years down the line and you remember something that somebody's like taught you like 3 years, 4 years, a year, 10 years down the line, and you're still using that. Whereas a lot of these are doing it for their own benefit and because, you know, it looks good being an educator. And it's about them rather than the people they're teaching. And I think that's where it gets lost.
Totally. There's a few that spring to mind. I'm not going to name names, obviously. If I was really unkind, I would. but I would kind of like, there's a few at the moment which I kind of follow on social media, and I'm about to like just switch off because
explode.
I'm looking at what they're doing, and it's just they've got nothing to add to the conversation. So what they're now doing is trying to create something without any background to stay relevant, to stay in conversation, to stay in your mind. And that's the precise wrong reason to be an educator.
I know who this is.
So
you know what? I've been on loads of courses during lockdown, like loads, because obviously the transition from live to online, I think obviously some people have found it hard, and there's been some really good educators who haven't just managed to get the right balance, and there's been some that have been great, but there's also been some that I can safely say have been some of the worst education that I've ever had in my whole career. And I left it just like, I actually can't believe people are paying money for this and continuing to pay money for it, because I literally felt robbed. I think as an education, you can look at it and say, I got nothing, but maybe it was a good show to watch. You know, like maybe it was like. It wasn't even that good a show. If it was a good show, I might have.
Yeah, right. Okay. No, but I can see that. Like some people, like, you know, like literally, people are just making stuff up now, which is, oh, I know that seems to be the hot topic. I'm going to hook onto that. I'm going to use maybe, for instance, I'm going to use mental health, and I'm going to talk about mental health and how it affects me and blah 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 blah. And you know, it's like you're just doing it just to keep your face in there, because you could say nothing, or they talk about, you know, there's what I hate about it when there's no hair involved, and there's a space up on the screen telling you stuff, and I'm like, oh, please God, shut up. Because,
and you know, the other thing that worries me is that, like, I genuinely believe, and, you know, in 15 years time, 20 years, if I'm wrong, then I'll hold my hands up. But I genuinely believe that we're going to have a bit of a lost generation of hairdressers.
Totally.
In the fact that, like, some of the courses I've been on, the information, the factual information that we need to know as hairdressers to do our jobs is so incorrect that we've got this generation that are being fed this. I've got to be careful, I can't swear, can I? This
bullshit.
Nonsense.
Bullshit.
Oh yeah, absolute bullshit. That is going to make them go back to their salons and do this within their job, and, you know, thinking that it's correct. So it's it's a worrying time. I think it's a great time for our industry, but there's also a worrying time as well. So
go on, Paul, go on.
Well, we're going to get onto that in a minute, aren't we? Like what we're going to talk about. The whole thing surrounding that. Which is
we've been talking off before we went live. We were talking before live. We always do it. We always come on 10 minutes early, have a good chat, and kind of where we go in, what questions we add in, already. How are we going to respond to them? And I'm like, he came up with this question. I winced when I heard it. And I said, oh, that's really something that triggers me.
Yeah.
And I said, I really want to say that. And he said, just say it then.
Yeah. But we've got a few. Let's answer these questions just before. So we've got Stephanie Bolton. She has asked a question. Is it a bad idea to thin curly hair?
Oh, it's a really good question. I don't think it's a bad idea to thin curly hair, but it depends on the hair texture, density, condition, and why you would want to thin it. If it's part of helping to create texture or lightness or trying to create space, what a colorist would say negative space, you create the same thing by channel cutting or by like slide cutting through curly hair, then I think it has a lot of value. And if it adds something to the haircut or something to the hairstyle or the finishing, then absolutely. But if it's like, oh, somebody's got thick curly hair, my God, you know, I can't handle it, I'm now going to just thin it out to make it like less dense.
Yeah.
I just don't think that adds a value to that haircut, or that I don't think that is a process. So I think first of all, you have to think about the shape, the texture, the direction, the pattern that you're going to cut into it. And then how does that want to feel? And then you you let your hands feed back what it's feeling to then take out the thickness or whatever, or the texture, or add something, or if you see something to pull and then do it, you know? So that's, I would say.
And there's the response.
Yeah, I think as well, it depends if you're talking about, like, you put thick curly hair, or whether it's thick curly hair or lots of curly hair. You could have lots and lots of curly hair that's finer, so you would approach it differently if it was thick. So it's finding out whether your hair is thick and curly or just long.
My hair
and curly.
long, thick and curly, and so. But so Stephanie, I would say that if if it's thick and heavy, which is like sounds like a dream to any hairdresser, right? Yeah. I think that I think you have to think about the shape that you want to create. And I understand that it can take a long time to dry, it can be weighty, it can be, but there are techniques that will give you lift. But if you just thin for the sake of thinning, it creates its own problems with volume then, because you get these different lengths within the head and then become bigger, and curls inside curls, which then expand and create more volume. So but done sensitively and done for the right reasons, on the right density and texture, it could be very, very profitable and fruitful.
I think what you said last week though, Ian, when you were cutting, a lot of hairdressers like thinning scissors, thinning shears, but you call them razor shears.
Yeah.
Razor scissors.
Yeah.
Just to break down that barrier of people who have already experienced the thinning shear catastrophes.
Yeah, because if you say the word, like, I don't do think, Lee, as well, if somebody says to you, oh, thinning, I'm going to use the thinning scissors, you automatically go back to the first time you saw somebody use thinning scissors and just butchered something, Yeah. And so, but there's, used well and used in the right way, they're a phenomenal tool.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
I was going to say, I use them quite a lot. I'm a big fan of them. When they're used correctly, I think they're great.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people just like reduce the amount of hair they're working with. And then, so they reduce it all. So now I've got less to work with. Now I can scissor over comb, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like catastrophe, right?
Yeah.
So you have to think about how you use them, I suppose. But that's good. What's that?
So Anthony, what's the worst cut you have ever done?
I know mine straight away. Like, it tortures me. Literally tortures my soul.
How long ago was it?
Probably, it's got to be going on 10 years ago. And in my defense, I don't know if there is much of one, but it was a lady who didn't speak any English whatsoever. And obviously 10 years ago, we didn't really have camera phones and pictures and things. So it was a lot of hand gestures and trying to explain what she wanted.
What was the final gesture? What was the final hand gesture?
Turns out that she wanted just a bob.
Oh my
It was
God! Right. Yeah.
just a bob that curled under, simple bob. The only word she could say to me was like tulip. Well, I
What'd she
thought a
say?
tulip. I thought a
Tulip.
tulip was one of those flowers that like had a funnel on the top. So I
It does.
essentially gave her like this, like Rachel-esque kind of flicky thing. That,
Paul's favorite
and
haircut,
honestly,
Rachel.
her
Yeah.
face, you just saw her in the mirror, and I was like, "So right?" She was like, "Oh, "That's fine, fine." Like, and I was like, "Something wrong?" And then I realised like her face was just like horrified. And I was like, okay, I need to try and fix this. And then like, what I should have done is just completely left it alone. And
Yeah.
yeah, bless her. Didn't see her again, funny
Paul,
enough.
what's yours, Paul?
Well, mine's like, yeah, mine again. This lady came in. English was broken. This was a number of years ago.
You're both stitching me up here. Go on, keep going.
No, because it leads on to she was well, she just wanted this haircut, and she had a picture of this young girl, and I was like, right, so I cut it, styled it, and she came back in. I mean, to me, it was all right, like, but it wasn't exactly like the picture. And she came back in. She goes, "Oh, I want to talk to you." And I said, "Oh, right, okay." She went upstairs. And I said, "What's up?" And she went, "This haircut doesn't look like the picture." I said, "No, I gave you like my interpretation of it because your hair and the way you look isn't like that." And she said, "That's me. Like it was her, but it was her 30 years ago." So that always plays in my mind that I was like, so my consultations are like, "Is that you?" Like now.
Oh, dear.
I know it's Jennifer Aniston.
Crying.
Yeah.
But is it you?
Yeah. But yeah, that was one of my worst experiences of it, where I was just like, that haircut it wouldn't have worked on her now. It wasn't now, it was ages ago.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? And yeah.
I think we get that a lot. People bringing in pictures of like 20 years ago and make me look like
Yeah.
this.
I only wish my one had brought in a picture because right, this goes back. I can tell you, it was 1985. I'll give you some idea, right? And there was a guy in Cardiff. There was a clothes shop, and it was called Hudson Hudson, and it was the shop to go to. It was the coolest, trendiest. They had the best. It was an independent. They had the most incredible clothes, and anybody shopped at Hudson and Hudson, right? And there was a guy there, and he was the manager. He was the smartest dude in Cardiff, right, by a country mile. And he came to the salon, and they gave him to me to cut his hair, but he wanted a complete restyle, right? And this guy had curly hair, right? Like quite thick curly hair, red head. So imagine what's his name from Simply Red, Mick Hucknall. He was a really good-looking Mick Hucknall with curly red hair, right? Yeah. But he wanted this, and he described it to me. He wanted a semi-crew cut, right? But he wanted the front bleached, yeah,
nice,
and sort of and styled, and the rest just like semi-crew. So I was like, right, okay, fine. So you want me to use the clippers on you? Yeah, radical, brother. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I'm cutting this off, and I'm doing like level 4 or something. He said, no, I want like semi-crew cut. I want it like short, like trying to explain the fade before fades were a thing in 1985. So I go down, fade it up a bit, and as I was taking, he was telling me take more off, and I was just on taking more off, and I was cutting him. I said, in the end, the top of his head here on the crown, I was finger pressed to his scalp, taking it off, right? Thinking this dude's like off it. So, but he wanted the front still left long, right? So I could bleach it and stuff. So he ended up with like no hair and this blob on the front of his head, right?
Like Boy George kind of look.
Yeah, more like Jonah Lomu, I would say. This thing there. He had this island of curly hair there. So I'm looking at him, and he is like almost in tears in the mirror. And I'm like, dude, like, obviously you're not happy. Like, let me help you. How can I, what's going on? He said, semi-cool, like, like a flat top. And I thought, oh, bollocks. There's no coming back from where I am.
No.
So I had to cut the front, like this mini flat top, use this to flatten out the shape, right? But then you had nothing, no sides, nothing, because I'd taken all the weight away, taken all the squareness off. And it was like, it was a car crash, right? And it makes I'm even now, I feel so embarrassed, just wasn't listening, wasn't paying attention, and not actually, like, working it out, And I was like, and I remember he was the only man I've ever made cry in a chair, right? And the worst thing was, of all, is that I could never go to Hudson and buy the clothes after that. I was like, I couldn't show my face in there. The coolest shopping cart, if I couldn't go because I ruined this guy's hair. And I remember that was like on a Wednesday morning. On the Friday night, we always used to go to the pub afterwards. After work, all other people worked in the city centre, went to a couple of pubs. We used to go to a place called the Bank, which is the coolest bar. Went to the Bank, and he was over in the corner with his mates, and he was pointing me out as the guy that had done this. And by this point, he'd taken it all off, so he just shaved his head. So it was a complete and utter disaster.
Oh, I wish that phones existed back then to see that.
Oh my God. I'm glad they weren't.
Oh,
Can you take a thickness of French braiding if the hair is too thick? I would say no.
Yeah.
Because it's only a temporary it's only a temporary thing anyway, French braid, right? So
yeah. The best thing to do would be to either, if you're struggling to do it because the hair's really thick, is to do it wet, or there's like braid balms, or you can use an argan oil, something like that, just to loosen up the hair a little bit and work the French braid in that way. Would you say?
Yeah, I would do it wet as well.
Yeah.
With like a moisture product, like some sort of moisture product to just keep it like that.
Yeah, I kind of that was the tulip. Yeah, it was like it is good.
And then Katrina, it was her mum's. She cut her fringe too short. Had to come every day from work and watch it grow slowly.
Is it still growing? Is it still growing? Is it still? Her mum is still. Do you remember? So every time Katrina now goes to her mum with the scissors to cut the fringe, she said, "Don't do that fringe you did last time. Don't do that." That's the worst thing. They come back to you, especially family.
I would recent a fringe after the first lockdown. I was cutting her hair, and we got onto her fringe, and I was cutting it, and I got to a length that I loved, and I said, "Oh, I love that." She went a bit shorter, and I said, "Well, only a little bit." Took a little bit off, and then she goes, "A bit more." I said, "Oh no." I said, "Don't do it." She goes, "Go on, just a little bit more." So I was like, "Oh, okay." Took a bit more, and as I took my scissors away, she was like, "I hate it." And she absolutely hated it. She didn't blame me though. She said, "I know, like you told me 2 or 3 times to keep it as it was, but yeah. Recent.
My mum does. Whenever I cut my mum's hair, I'm the only person who cut my mum's hair for the last 40 years. She said that she has naturally wavy hair. No, she used to be curly, but now just more of a wave, and she wears it quite short. And she always says to me, "Oh, I always want this haircut. I always want that haircut." Blah 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 blah. And like. She said to me, she stopped coming to me. She said to me, this is what my mum's not last quote, I think the quote she said about 3 haircuts ago. She said, "The thing is, if you were any good, you wouldn't have to ask me all these questions about what I want. You should just do it, and I will be happy with it." And I'm like, "What do you mean if I was any good?" And she's like, I said, "Thanks for that." So it's just like no support whatsoever. Like if you were any good. And I said, "The thing is, man, what I think suits you and looks great, you hate."
Yeah.
And I know I could do that, and everybody said it looks great, but you won't like it because you would like a certain thing. So I can't help you if you're uneducated. That's my point. Yeah.
I'll talk about this in my new YouTube video. I filmed 3 videos today, and one of them is surrounding that issue about bringing pictures in to basically take us, because we go that way, but somebody might want to be here.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk about in one of my new videos. Yeah, because it is a big thing. But this was a question that I got asked on, I think it was Instagram this week, fringes, are they in or out? Coming up for like when salons reopen? Yeah.
In, massively in. I think they're going to be huge.
Yeah, all sorts of fringes as well.
I'm going to
Not
actually
just
do
the
my own
banging
again at some
fringes.
point. That's my fringe now.
Yeah.
My ever fringe has been on myself as well. So yeah, I'm not doing it myself. I've made that mistake.
I've just kept a fringe in Lisa's hair, and it looks like she looks great with it. And she said to me, "Why haven't you done this for me before?" And I said, "Because you've always told me you hate fringes." She said, "I know, but I didn't know you could have like a fringe like this." I was like, "Well, you know, it looks." I said, "I've always said like let's do a fringe. No, I hate fringes. Let's do this now. I'll do a really soft sweeping fringe. I'll do hate fringes. I've had one." And what's happened is when she was like in school or something, somebody gave her one of those fringes, and she's like it's scarred her till now into adult life. So all fringes she associates with that, you know, and not all different lengths and all that type of stuff. So
there's
it's
no
kind
way
of
she
weird,
could beat mine. I did exactly that. I pulled a fringe down and cut it on my hair. It was wet.
Oh.
So it ended up here, and we had school photos. So do you know what I did? I shaved it off. Can you even believe that? I've got like this real like triangle here, so I shaved the triangle off and didn't consider obviously when it grows back. Yeah, that was a look at the end of senior school.
But barbers do that now.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, now it's a thing, but definitely wasn't.
That trend started with you, I'm sure.
It looked its best when it was about half an inch long, like the stub. So yeah,
just straight out.
Fringes.
So Stephanie says, I cannot figure out how to share my video, but I listed it on my YouTube page. My 3-year-old son forgot he had his haircut until he's seen himself in the video. I was so sad. It was so sad, but funny.
Yeah, that would be really, I'd love to see that. I'd love to be able to see that. Yeah, I'll get a good laugh. Yeah, that would be amazing. He's probably like, had his dad's haircut, forgot about it, then like a bit later, look and goes, what? Who? What? Who is that person? That would be cool. I'd like to see that. But fringes definitely are a big in for this coming season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to be massive.
And then this question is the one. So this is both from a consumer point of view, but also from a professional point of view. So if whoever wants to start.
Go on, Lee. You're the guest. Go for it.
Okay, so I would say in this as well, it would depend on where you are in your career. Because if you're anywhere under the first 10 years, I would say absolutely stay in an employed salon. Yeah. The only time I would really recommend going self-employed is if you were going to be getting your own salon to work in on your own, really, without other staff. And that's it. I'm a massive advocate for employed salons, just because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think we're going to have a lost generation of people that aren't educated as well, because there's only so much you can grow on your own. And in a self-employed salon, or whether it's in your garden or wherever it might be, you can do education, and you can keep up to date. I don't think anything can compare to having a team around you and having a mentor that's going to build you up and lift you up to be the best that you can be. So I would stay employed all day long, and just there's people who are against employment at the moment, and it's finding the right salon with the decent leaders in it. And they are around. It's just, if you've had a bad experience, it might not be the employed part of it. It might be where you were.
What about from a client's point of view?
I think from a client's point of view, if the clients that come to my salon, they come to the salon and they know, they're very aware that we work as a team. So if somebody's running behind, somebody else will jump in and help. And if somebody's off, they're happy to go to somebody else as well. Most of the time, not all the time. Obviously, there's always a few that like their person. But it's almost like a bit of a security blanket and a comfort that they know they're getting a service that's under the salon, rather than one person on their own. And if I was to get somebody self-employed now, that was just running on their own and having nothing to do with the rest of the team, because essentially that's what you do. It's your business.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, you can work with people and work next to people, but that's where it ends. I know full well that my clients wouldn't be comfortable with that, and wouldn't be comfortable going to somebody if I had to say to them, oh, you'd have to go through them and you'd have to book through them directly, and you know they're the ones that are going to take your money. They'd be like, no. No, they just wouldn't. I know they wouldn't.
That's a massive
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's a massive point with this. So you're saying that a self-employed stylist should work in their own area, as like with American booth rental, that you go in and they should have all their color next to them, their foil, their booking system, their till, everything. Whereas, in America, it's very much like that with the whole booth rental licensing. Yeah. But in the UK, that is where it's just not. You walk into a salon, you don't know if somebody's employed, self-employed, or they're just there just to be there. And that's one of the biggest things, that where they're just walking around using the salon's color, using their booking system, using their till, and it all gets divvied out at the end of the day.
That's not self-employed then. That isn't self-employed. No. It's somebody employed. It's just being put through as self-employed. There's a massive difference. Legally, financially, everything. There's huge implications. And you know, from my point of view, like if I was doing the books for somebody that was self-employed and they were getting their money from the company, like wherever they were working, you know, it wouldn't be classed as self-employed. You know, they would have to be a subcontractor, but that would mean all their money going through them and things like that. And it's just, I haven't come across a salon that does it how it should be done, like completely how it should be done. There's some good examples out there of spaces that do it very well.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few that I can think of off the top of my head that I know stick to the complete model of being self-employed as it should be. You've got Kai Wilson, who's got the social.
Yeah.
He, like, the people rent his space. They go in there and use his space, and that's it. It's completely separate. Joe Irving, who's got Love Hair, she's the same. It's not, nothing is done through those buildings and those companies. It's purely, you rent the space, you go in, you do your job, and that's it. There's no crossover.
Yeah, I think,
but they are very few and far between.
I think, you know, there's I look at it from another point of view, maybe from the customer's viewpoint, in that, you know, there's a big thing at the moment, especially in local communities. Like I'm 1 mile outside the city centre. I'm in a suburban area of Cardiff, and you know, there's very much a focus on shopping local. And the reason we shop local is to support local independent businesses. And we support those local independent businesses because they employ local people that bring money into the local economy, support the schools, support other businesses, you know, and help the community to thrive. Whereas if you look at somebody who rents a space, there are examples right nearby where people rent space from other salons, but they contribute nothing to the local economy. They don't train anybody. They don't pass on anything. They are purely in it for self-interest and to make their own money. That's all they care about. So there's nothing going back into the local economy. They're not even declaring the right amount of tax. Most of them take cash at some point, and they basically fiddle their figures. So they think walking on with a pocket full of cash is more to them than any contribution to the local economy, local people's livelihoods, you know, supporting the local community and creating, you know, a proper environment for people to thrive in. And I think, and I said to Paul, and I don't apologize for it, I think those kind of people are parasites. I think they contribute. So if you were telling me that you want people to take you seriously as a hairdresser, as a professional hairdresser, and to be held in high esteem amongst the highest in the country, then I think you have to be employed, or you have to have your own salon, or you have to be part of a team that you understand how a hierarchy of a salon will work, and how you have earned your place in that hierarchy, and you have fought hard to get your own voice. You've had to come through a system where education is key and underpins everything you do. And I think the values that salons bring are being lost and diluted for people's laziness, greed, whatever you want to take it. They're the only things I can think of, because they contribute nothing to the industry whatsoever. I can't think of one positive thing that they contribute to the industry as a whole. I just think they're parasites. Simple.
We've got a good.
Oh, go ahead.
Go on.
We've got so Anthony's watching, and I'll bring his question up, but he's basically said, I'll bring it up now so you can see. So he had a bad experience when he was employed. He was doing everything, got paid nothing. Where he is now, it's amazing. We work as a team, self-employed and loving it. The owner is a massive inspiration to him, and he's learned so much from her.
Yep. Cool.
So, but one question, or well, two questions I've got, Anthony, is just because we can see where the industry is going with the IR35, with all the things that's going to come in very, very soon for the government to try and claim back all this money in tax. I just would like to know, do you work in that one salon more than 3 days a week? And is all of your colour and amenities, sundries and everything around you as if it's a booth? Just pop it in the comments. I would just love to know.
Also, does he have his own payment? Does he take his own payments on cards and stuff?
Yeah.
But I think that what I want to know is, who is that salon training? What do they passing on to the next generation? And what else are they contributing to the local community? If they're just creating a space for somebody to rent a chair, then it's a lazy business. It's not building anything. You're not contributing to it, in my opinion. And I know I'm outspoken on it, and I'm not going to apologize for it, because I 100% believe in it. That I think that the industry, if we don't support employed salons and businesses that employ people who give great education, support their workers, they look after them, they pay their taxes, they support them in maternity leave, they support them in their holiday times, or on the sick leave, and all those type of things with good systems in place. If you don't support those people, then who are going to train the next generation?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
because
my question to Anthony would be as well, like, obviously I don't know where he works or anything, but if he loves where he works and all of that is happening, then why is he not employed there? Why is his boss not employing him? Because there's only one reason that that's not happening.
Yeah, that's tax. Not to pay the tax. They don't want to pay VAT. They don't want to pay the NI. They don't want to pay PAYE. So there's all those costs. No, they don't want to pay pension contribution. So, and so is he paying his own? Does he have his own pension? He's definitely not getting an employer's contribution to it. So there's all of those things which are our back office stuff then, but they all the benefits, holiday pays and all that, and I think that you have to look at the whole, when you pay for you might take, I know, £1,000 a week, but by the time you've paid your 40%, you're now down to £600 a week. Then by the time you put 20% of that away, or 20% of your 1,000 away, okay, that's for your tax. That's another 200 quid. So all of this stuff is coming off. Very often, you're better to be employed. Be working in a reputable salon that's going to employ you and have a structure that you can then work through to get to wherever you are, to get your promotion, so you can earn more money and charge more money and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but I do
my fear as well. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Well, all I was going to say was, so Anthony's working 2 days a week. You were talking about Kai. I was going to bring up Kai. And the way that we would work. So we work as educators, photo shoots, artist work, all this sort of stuff that goes on, and in salon. I really do. There is a part for it, which we're all very much for. and that is if you do travel all over and you need a space to rent to look after your clients 2 to 3 days a week, that's absolutely fine. Like that is what the model
is meant to be. That's the model it's meant to be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's just what I wanted. I don't want everyone to think that we're against self-employed. Absolutely not. Like we're self-employed. We run the business, but there's just been a real tax haven for this whole sector of the industry that is just not replenishing our industry so we can actually grow as an industry. And everyone's moaning in lockdown saying we're not appreciated. I mean, it's no wonder really by the government if they're not getting the full whack of money that the country deserves from our industry. They talk about the billions that we generate in revenue, but we don't. I bet they don't see the generation of VAT and tax.
They don't see the tax. I mean,
I would go further than that. Actually,
go for it. Go on.
I would say that it's not just that. I would say that these people that are running these spaces and taking these people in, knowing, because generally the business owners, they're going to know exactly what they're doing. They're going to know that what they're doing is, they may have found loopholes, but ultimately they're going to know that it's illegal. And they are taking advantage of people that don't understand this. I did a business room with there was like 30 odd other stylists, and 90% of them were self-employed. And when I started going through the difference between like limited companies and self-employed and different things you needed to have, like the amount of jaws that dropped, like genuinely had no idea. And all the people that were obviously renting out the spaces to them have never told them any of this, and why would they? Because they are raking it in, and it's taking advantage of people that aren't as clued up on the legalities of things, and
also
how it's going to affect them in 50 years time.
Well, I also think that anybody that has an employed salon, so you have a salon full of employed people, and then you decide to flip it into a self-employed space, has a really poor business. Because if you're a business and you're running it properly, then you should be generating more profit than having people rent you, because you renting chairs, because all you're doing really then is sharing the liability. You're sharing the rent, rates, lighting, heating, and they've made a calculation how much that costs, and then you pay your bit and they make 25% extra for themselves from everybody who's in there. You're still doing the hard work, so don't be fooled that, oh, I'm self-employed, I can do. No, they're taking a cut and you're doing it for them. Just the more view they get, the better it is for them, because they're sharing the liability. That's all it is. So the business never really existed anyway. Because if you're finding that's more profitable for you, then your business. So how can you learn from somebody who doesn't have a business model that was? How could you? It doesn't have a business model work. How could you learn from somebody who doesn't know how to make a business of employment work for people and give them real direction and give them real pathways into becoming very successful stylists who will be, respected throughout the industry, like yourself, like Paul, who have worked your way up, and you've worked in structures and created your own structures to support people, not just say, I'll just take the cash, I'll make my 25% off everybody, that's going to be great for me. I just don't agree, with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that, there are salons out there where you can earn just as much as being self-employed.
More.
At the end of the day, if people genuinely sat down and worked out everything that it costs to be self-employed, and also everything that they're losing, so with sick pay, maternity pay, all of that sort of stuff, pension contribution and things like that, you find a good salon that offers really good, bonus commission rates, whatever you want to call it, you can absolutely make as much, if not more. And you get all the support to go with it.
And all the benefits. You got all the benefits. None of the headaches. You haven't got to save money for your tax, because I think we talked about an article recently, Paul, by Steve Rowbottom, actually, from West Row. And he was saying, in 18 months' time, when they get handed their first tax bill, and it's 7,000-8,000, and they haven't put up that much away, they'll soon go back into employment, because, you know, they've been caught out. They'll be looking for jobs then because they won't be able to, you know, they don't want to pay the tax. And so they'll fold and they'll just go employed now then.
There's been a lot of salon owners this lockdown as well. Not this lockdown, but over the last however long it's been, nearly a year now, isn't it? There's been a few I've seen that have actually sacked off their salons and gone self-employed somewhere else.
Yes,
and
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
There's been a lot of reasons for it that have been given out, but ultimately the only reason that they never really were that bothered about their team in the first place.
And they never had a business. They never had a business. So they feel they can earn more on their own than the business earned for them. Yeah. Which in many cases it is true, because in lots of cases it's a poorly paid hobby to a lot of hairdressers. You know, to be honest, that's all they have. They have a poorly paid hobby. And I know that everybody thinks it's easy. You know, oh, business owner, you must be raking in. Well, you know the reality of margins and how they've been shrunk. But you've got to then look at the way that you organize yourselves and you react to the change, and you kind of you preempt it along the way, you know, by having your business model completely set up that way. You still make mistakes and you'll still get things wrong. But I think that you've got to look at it in a bigger picture, in a broader sense. And I just don't think that, you know, and you are rightly, that's exactly what a lot of salon owners have done. They've just thrown their hands up because there's a lot of pressure, because there's a lot of stress. But those stresses and strains are only there because the business is suffering in one way or other. Like they live in from week to week, or they don't know whether money's coming to pay the next VAT bill, or they struggle to pay their PAYE every month, or whatever contributions they need to pay to the government. They're the stresses, but they're easily solved. There's simple solutions to those, but there's work to be done about how you would solve those, how you would work out those figures, and then how you place yourself in your own marketplace. So, I mean, you talked about briefly on Friday, you know, somebody asked you a question about when do you put your prices up? And I said to you, oh, you know, this is, and the answer is about, I believe, is that you put your prices up when you're busy enough.
Yeah. It's
simple. If the numbers say that you're reaching the utilization target, you have enough frequency coming through your business of single clients, that you have enough new clients coming through there. There's 4 measures we use. You hit those marks every quarter, you should have a slight increase in prices. And if your team,
exactly why I said what I did.
Yeah, exactly, it was a perfect answer. And if people actually set out those skills and you give them to your team and say, if you want to get promoted to the next level, these are the measures, follow this religiously, and do this for the next 3 months, I will promote you to the next level. So it's a win-win for the stylist, because the stylist then goes up to the next level, and then they charge more money, earn more money. So it's incentive them to go be promoted, because the more they charge, like Shawnee, who works for me, you know Shawnee. I mean, she came to me 6 years ago charging £23 a haircut. She now charges £68 a haircut.
Yeah.
And she's more successful than she's ever been. She has more than doubled her salary in 6 years. I'm like so proud of that. But I gave her the thing for that. I showed her the way and I showed her the formula, but she had to do it. I didn't do it for her. She's been phenomenal, but she took it and said, right, that's all I need to do is that. Yes. Got her first promotion. She was like, so what happens now? I said, well, do it again for 3 months. You get another one. What? Another promotion? Yeah. Now she's got the 60 odd quid a haircut. And she's like, yeah, I don't think I need to put my prices up. And I'm like, babe, you're like 110% booked. Of course you need your prices up, you know? And it's kind of like, it's difficult, you know, for them to, and that's when you see when somebody values themselves or what worth they have, is when they get to the level they feel that, oh, I shouldn't be charging this, you know, but the numbers tell me you should. Yeah. And they say, oh, but I don't want to go up there. You know, that's when you've got to put, as an owner, you have to push them. And that's when you have to encourage, and you have to get them to see what people see in them, because they don't see it themselves. So that's the
what I
thing,
said
you know.
the other day about, when we had that chat, and I said, one of the things at the moment everywhere is, know your worth. You need to charge what you need to charge and put your prices up and all of that. And yes, I agree with that. However, like I said then, you have to be, know your worth, but you have to be worth it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point charging 68 quid a haircut, jumping up to that from 50 quid if you're 40% booked.
40% booked, exactly. So that's
you
it.
have to
You
be
have to know your
worth it as
numbers.
well.
Yeah.
Know your worth, but you have to be worth it to do that.
Worth it. Yeah.
So,
I mean, there was a guy who used to work in Cardiff. He's not here any longer, and he was like saying, "I'm going to be the first hairdresser in Cardiff to charge £100 for a haircut," and he did, and I had no clients. Like nobody went there, and it was like it was all about, like, he was on every. We have a local magazine, Styling City magazine, and in that magazine, in the back pages, they've got like who's out and about, who's in parties, launches, and all this. And he was in every one. He was getting his face out then, and it was all about him.
Paying for it.
He's paying for it, yeah. And he wanted to be famous, and he wanted to be famous for that. But I think he had one or two people who thought, 100 quid for that, And so if you're going to charge 100 quid, you're going to have to knock their socks out.
You need to be worth 100 quid.
And I'm the most expensive. I think I'm the most expensive in Cardiff now, and I charge £98 a haircut, right? And I charge £110 to a new client. So I think that's pretty.
Are you now the cover boy?
Yeah, I'm the cover boy. You just don't see me anywhere. That's the difference. I'm too old and too ugly to be on any magazines. So I think that I charge that. Like down the road is another guy. He's worked the same amount of time as me in the industry. He's got a great salon. We're good friends. And he says to me, "Oh, you've got such a cheek charging that." Because he charges I think he may be charging about 58, 60 now. But I was always ahead of him, and I've just grown. And he said, and I was like, well, I'm not being cheeky. It's just that I'm 91% utilized all year round. My numbers tell me that I'm the busiest in the salon still. And so, like, I haven't had a price increase. When we went back last time, I put my prices up for the first time for about 18 months. I was happy with charging what I was. My clients are happy. I've had them a long time. And I don't want to screw anybody over, and I don't want to take advantage, but I want to get paid what I'm worth. Yeah. And I think 100 quid an hour is good, in anybody's book. And I think that, it's an elastic band pricing. You can pull it, and eventually it'll break. And you've got to get to that point where you're pulling far enough before you get to that breaking point. So, know your audience, know your room, who you playing to, know that, know how much elastic have you got left before it pings, before you lose people. And I think as long as you understand that and you feel confident about it, then there's no reason why you can't charge those prices. But he could charge those prices, but he just didn't have a formula. It doesn't work to a formula, and that's how he does it. Go on, sorry. You take this one.
Yeah. I see Lee, as she said, that's a good question. So away you go.
So why does it matter if you only work 2 days, if you work 2 days or more while self-employed? Because once you go over a certain amount of time in one place and you have no other place of work, so say if you work 3-4 days in a salon and you have no other place where you go to work on those other 2 days, you will then be classed under the eyes of the law as employed. So unless you are doing 3 days, like you said, you're doing 2 days at the moment, but you plan on obviously doing more. When you're doing 4 or 5 days in that salon self-employed, if you are not going anywhere else to work as well, then when all this new laws come in and the new legislation is done, you will be classed as employed.
Yeah. You're no longer self-employed. You have, I think, is it IR35 is called?
Yeah, and it's not just that. There's a couple of bits coming in as well, and obviously the whole thing with like the Uber and there's loads, obviously, and all sorts of things.
Again,
a lot coming around. With
Anthony, I mean, I'd like to know with his insurance, does he pay his own insurances? Does he have his own public liability?
I've got a great story about that.
Have you?
Yeah,
I'm glad I brought it up. But public liability is massive.
Yeah.
So you're the person who has a space may have they may have their public liabilities, but if you're self-employed, you have to have your own indemnities and liabilities covered.
But even
So,
if you have that still won't stand up. If when
Yeah.
all this comes in, and everyone needs to be very clear, the government have set up a team and taken people from elsewhere specifically to target the self-employed industries as a general. They've got a separate team that they've set up, and they will be 100% going for those industries that are high self-employment. The only ones that I would say won't be probably included is more construction, because they have a slightly different way of working.
Yeah.
But you know, beauty, hair, like you say, taxi drive, that sort of thing, anything like that is going to come under fire without a doubt. And there is a specific team.
They're going to go for the low-hanging fruit first. They'll go for low-hanging fruit, and that will be things like hairdressers, because we do make a lot of noise and we don't contribute a lot. And the lockdown highlighted that to them. When the furlough kicked in, there was disproportionately amount of hairdressers who were not able to claim furlough because they were self-employed and they weren't covering. They were being covered, and that highlighted as like a big alarm to the HMRC, to the government watchdogs, that hang on, this is disproportionate in an industry that these people haven't qualified for any of our handouts. And they're making a lot of noise about it. Why haven't they? Were they self-employed? Well, let's look at the self-employment. And if they are 3 days or more in a salon, they are technically employed. They're just using a tax loophole, which we want to close. Basically, they've done it with Uber, and they've got that ruling in the Supreme Court, and now it won't be reversed. And they're going to come after every other industry. And when the lowest hanging fruit is hairdressing.
Yeah.
And I do think as well, with like, obviously, I think a lot of people think that it's going to be the people who own the space that are going to come under fire, but it's not just. It's going to be the people that are self-employed as well, because as there are benefits to being self-employed in some way. So if there's taxable benefits that's going to people have been getting that they shouldn't have been getting, it will be both. It will be the owners of the salons and the spaces and the people that are claiming to be self-employed. So it's really dodgy ground at the moment. I don't think we've ever had a shift like this. No. And I don't think people are realizing what's coming. And when I say that they set up this team, it's not just for self-employed. There's been a whole new team set up for furlough fraud as well. So it's both areas. It's the self-employed side of things and salons and businesses in all across the country who've been claiming furlough fraud. They are going to get this money back somewhere.
Yeah,
they will.
And that is it. That's what they're going to do. Like we've spent. We're in so much debt that they're going to be coming for this money somehow, and that's probably the easiest way that they're going to get it. But Angela's just said there, she's just tuned in, but 30 years ago, her boss tried this self-employed working at his premises, and it wasn't legal then. No, IR35 has been around for years. It just hasn't really been stated in as law. But like Lee said about the Uber, because I shared the article, didn't I, on Instagram, and that's massive, because that's the reason black cab drivers detest Uber drivers. Not only because they take their fares, but because they're making all this money working for a company, but technically not working for a company. It's a disguised employee. And that's the whole thing surrounding it. And because they're not paying the tax, that's the issue.
I guarantee that's going to be a catalyst in like not just our industry, in like business going forward. Everything. That Uber case is going to be a landmark for a huge knock-on effect from other things, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, it did with zero contracts, didn't it? There was the thing about having 0-hour contracts for ages, and then the government cracked down on that. So it's nothing new. It's just that it's taken them a lockdown for them to understand what is actually going on within our broken industry.
They have it for the first time ever. They have everyone's financial information in front of them all at the same time. That's never happened in our lifetime before, and probably won't ever happen again. So they can clearly see when people put in these claims, you have to declare, what you're earning and how you're earning it. They've never had this information so readily available. And it doesn't take a brain scientist to work out, like, some people earn that, but that's actually what they're doing. It just, it's
My understanding of Anthony's question is that if you do 3 days or more, you're classed as employed.
Yeah.
So if he did 3 days, he'd be classed as employed then.
Yeah, anything under 2, anything under 3 days, you can see as like freelance.
And you have to show multiple streams of income. You have to show that you're available for work elsewhere.
Yeah.
So you have to show that you can work in. You have to show that you demonstrate that you can work for multiple people. So you would still employed, really. So that's where his issue is. If he's doing the same profession in somewhere and then doing a mobile, then they'd still think you'd be employed in that place. You'd have to work for 2 or 3 different companies. Like we work for Joico, I work for my own company, and then I have another company, and I can show that quite clearly. That's what my revenues are. And I spend so many days here. I spend 3 days in the salon, 2 days here, and I spend so many days a month with Joico, and I get paid. And I get paid for and declare everything through those. But I'm still employed, but I could make a case for being self-employed. But it's of no real advantage to me.
A really good example as well. An easy way to explain it is for our industry is like Anthony, say if you were working in a salon for 3 days, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it might be, and you were a session stylist and you went and worked on shows in London, and then you were hired by another company to go and do some education somewhere else, that sort of thing you could quite easily say you're self-employed, because you're being used on multiple different streams, whereas if it's one stream, then there's very little that you're going to be able to get away with, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, we've just literally touched on it tonight. I know we've given you a lot of information, but it's because we're all salon owners, and it's something that really affects our industry. Like we've said, the production of the future generation, which is what we're concerned about. Because if people then start to not want to become a hairdresser and an assistant, where do our employed staff come from?
And there's a lot of people encouraging self-employment. A lot of big, what I would call, not necessarily big hairdressers, but big influencers.
I know.
Young celebrity, not even celebrity, but hairdressing influencers who are saying like, well, I'm self-employed, it's great, go and do this. Like, that's few and far between. People have to understand that doesn't work for everyone, and not everyone's cut out to have their own business and being self-employed.
It's a bit like a pyramid scheme, isn't it? Really, the guys at the top, the guys at the top get paid the big money. The guys at the bottom, they make not very much at all when you take all the costs out of it. And it's like it's like I said, some people are very naive about what they do. Like I know people. I know like people who've gone on to set up salons. I've tried to help, and until you sit down with somebody and look at their business plan, and you then ask them the questions that you would ask as a salon owner, and that they haven't thought about the answer, they're in trouble already. Yeah. And like I've just had this happen recently to a very good friend of mine who's decided to set up a salon, and and then they said their business plan was good. Well, let me have a look at it. Let me help you out, or whatever. See what I can do. And then I saw it, and I kind of said, well, what about this, and what about that, and what about that? This is where you're vulnerable. This is where you're weak, and this is where your potentials are. Like doing a SWOT analysis with them, whatever type of thing. But when I pointed out their weaknesses and threats, they were like, they just didn't see it at all. And when they saw it, they were like horrified. And now I know they've got this big call to arms to try to fill in those gaps. But there's very few people out there who are willing to take a punt on a new salon, who want to go work for a new salon. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, they want to go to try trusted where they can get paid. They know they're going to get paid. And they don't want part-time, they want full-time. Or if they want part-time, they want well-paid part-time. So there's, they don't want minimum wage. They want more than that, So those are the issues.
I think it takes a special person to be a business owner in general, and it isn't for everyone. And I think if you're getting into having a salon thinking that you're instantly going to be loaded, you're getting into it for the wrong reasons. You need to be getting into it because you want to. Yes, obviously everyone wants to make money. that's that's what everyone wants to do when they have a business. They want to
Yeah.
make money, but there's so much more into it. You need to be able to want to grow people. You need to be able
Yeah.
to want to contribute to your communities. There's so much more than just making money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a huge kind of like you said, a cultural kickback from it. Like in your own community, you're making the difference, and that's what we try to do. You do the same thing, and the people you're kind of collaborating with, the people that you link up with within your community, and how we promote local businesses within our business, and we support one another. And I think it's linking other people up. If I know a great clothes shop, I'll send them there. If I know a great plumber who's local, I'll send them there. And we seem to be the hub of all connections, don't we? Because we get all people from all walks of life coming through our doors,
Yeah.
And so you always end, whenever we go walking locally, me and Lisa, like take the kids for a walk, we go to the local park and I'm like, yeah, hi, oh, hello, how are you? And she said, oh my God, we can't go anywhere without you speaking to people. But I said, well, that's the part of being part of the community, and that's why I love it so much, It's just being able and recognizing people recognizing you, and just passing the time of day, that's really important.
Should we jump on to Tony's question? So,
Okay.
Is there salons that take on people with disabilities? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm not sure what your disability is, but you have a look at, like, there's Mitch, what's his name? Mitch Chalmers, Simon Townley. Like, they've both got major physical disabilities. Obviously it depends on what sort of area you're in, but yeah, there absolutely are salons without a doubt.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you would shy away from, unless they're incapable of doing a job. But I've seen people do some amazing things in hairdressing where you wouldn't, you least expect it, because they have such a passion for it,
Yeah. And then Lisa, what percentage? So this is to your price increase. So what percentage would you increase by to not outprice the customers? So what percentage would you increase by to not outprice your customers?
That I don't have a fixed percentage. That's all I want to know is how utilized you are. So Lisa, what I'd ask you is, how busy is your salon?
Yeah.
If your salon's 60% busy, I wouldn't advocate having a price increase. If your salon is 70 to 75%, I would normally say I would have 2 annual price increases of about 5% each one, usually March, usually October. That's when I do mine. And that's what this industry standard would say. But if you're this business and it's in, 80% plus, then you're looking at bigger increases so that you can open spaces up, because people will leave when you up prices. But then you have to open up, because if you've got a very busy salon of 80% plus, it means that the people who really want to come and see you are new clients, and they can't get the appointments because it's a long waiting list. So you either then create a dedicated day or something where you have a new client day and you reserve appointments at a premium rate, or you put your prices up to an extent where you lose 10% but gain new customers who are only used to paying the new prices and don't have anything to refer it against. So there's different ways of doing it, and that's a business head that you have to put on, not an emotional, I love my clients head. Although we all love our clients, you still have to make money, and you still have to make sure that you're making the right decisions that suit your business. So it isn't one size suits all, but you have to know your business and what it's able to take as a whole,
And if you're 90% and over, then you need to up it by a lot.
Oh, totally, yeah. I was actually talking. Me and Paul was talking this week. I got somebody I'm working with in Canada. She's got 117,000 followers on Instagram, totally legit, killing it. But her business isn't really making her money that she wants. And I look at the pricing. She's like 100% booked. She has a 6-month waiting list.
Girl.
Like, unbelievable business, but way too cheap. And like but get them to get over that hurdle, and again, not believing they're worth that money. And I live in this little town. I'm not in that town. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're generating your business to be that badass, then charge badass prices too. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that is
Cool.
that is really true, and not go on location. You know, I was in a Clubhouse chat the other day, and there was a stylist on there from, I think she might have been Canada as well, and her story was incredible. And the people that she worked around, because obviously it's a lot of self-employed again, she put her prices up, and they basically were saying to her that, you know, you're really cheeky, you're out of order, you know, who do you think you are, type thing. So she moved somewhere else and put her prices up, and the same thing happened again. And now she works 20 miles outside of that little town that she was in, because it had like, I think it was like 15,000 people or something, and she's now 20 miles out, and she's charging triple what she used to
Wow.
charge in that little town.
Amazing.
And killing it.
Yeah, and you know, like that's like a lot of that's that story's common, isn't it? You know, like it's. And what you got to realize when people are saying to you, "Who do you think you are?" You know, who do you think you are charging now? You got a cheek, or you know, they're just basically projecting their own fears onto you.
Absolutely.
What they're doing is that I don't think I'm worth it, so how come you are worth it?
Yeah,
that's what they're actually saying to you. That is that's a classic projection. You know, their fears that hold them back. They then want to hold you back because they don't think, you know, they haven't got the confidence to do it, so they question it in a disparaging way to make you feel bad or make you feel, you know, sort of alienated, that you think you're trying to morally sort of get a hold over you, but actually they're just telling you more about themselves than they're saying about you, really. And if your business is strong enough to do it, and you have that type of utilization, and you have that follow through, you look at your frequency, you look at your sales, you look at your new client numbers, and they write, then put your prices up. Simple.
Cool. So Anthony's just said he's learnt loads again. So thank you. And thanks for being here, Anthony. It's great. And the questions you've given us.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Where can you find more information?
Oh, that's what I was about to say. He said he wrote, where could you find more info? Just literally go on the government websites and things, and you'll on ACAS as well is another one that would have stuff about
ACAS is really good.
You'll be able to find information in regards to self-employment and upcoming changes. So
yeah, and I think there's two HR. You get some free resources, and one's Krona and one's Peninsula.
Oh, Peninsula are actually really good.
Peninsula, yeah. There's a lot of free resources on them, but it's very similar to what ACAS will tell you anyway, and some .gov websites about taxation, they'll tell you that too.
Yeah, and Google IR35. So IR35, and it will tell you all about.
There's some really good news articles as well. So when you Google it, like click on the news tab, and you'll find news articles about it too.
Yeah, and then Tony said thank you for the just Salon's take on stylists with disabilities.
Cool.
Yes, go for it. Find one.
And that is all. I mean, there's a couple more that we had through the week about what trends do you think are coming up. Somebody wants a perm.
Today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about trends today, and I think it's going to, like, I generally feel like we're going to explode a bit, like, you know, like in after the war and after the Spanish flu and that sort of thing, where women essentially went out and just went wild.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a real, like, I do think fashion wise, I think it's going to be lots of color, like a real like explosion of color. And I think with hair, it's going to be a lot more natural, like textures and things, people embracing their natural hair a bit more. But on the other extreme of doing the real, like, done up proper, like, side parting updo kind of things as well when they're going out and things. So I think it's going to be a great couple of years as a hairdresser.
Cool. Love that.
I actually booked a perm in today for the first time in about 15 years.
Did you?
Yeah, she's coming in 3 weeks' time.
Cool. Yeah, I did 3 videos today, one on trends, one on extensions, and one on perming. So I'll be editing them.
I think it's going to be natural perming though. I don't think it's going to be back to like the.
Oh no, it's not.
It's going to be nice natural perming.
But my team keeps the client call came in. My team all looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, who can do this?" And Alex, who's been with me 16 years, said, "Him, get him to do it." Yeah. So I said, "Yeah, just book it in, no problem. I'll do it. I'll just show you it's done."
Be a good training lesson as well. You can teach them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Last one, I promise, from Anthony. What is the worst haircut you've ever had?
The one I gave myself. No, actually, I thought of this on the last question. I'll just tell you quickly. When I was about 13, 14, I had this massive crush on this girl at our church Sunday school. So I was a very good boy, went to church. and
Was
Amanda.
this word.
Her name was Amanda, and we used to go on a Friday night after school. We used to go back to her house. There was to be a prayer meeting at the church. We used to go to a Friday night evening, like a youth club thing, but it was run by the church. Then it was a prayer meeting, and then we used to go back to her house for coffee, or her parents' house. And because we were all like, I was probably about 14, maybe 13, 14, and somebody had an idea of why don't we cut somebody's hair. And she was going to do it, so I quickly volunteered because I wanted to be wanted her to cut my hair because I had this big crush on her, right?
Yeah.
And she gave me this fringe up here. They put sellotape across my forehead. I tried to cut the straight fringe. It looked like something from Dumb and Dumber before it was real. So that was my worst haircut because I was like infatuated by this girl when I was about 13.
I had when I was at New Year's Eve party. This girl said she was a hairdresser, and she got her clippers out and she just started clippering all my hair off, and she did it all on one side of number 4. I don't know why. I never had a shaved head before, but she just did it on one side, and then the guard broke, and all she had was number 2 on the other. So I had a number 2 on the other side, and I found out after she wasn't a hairdresser; she was a dog. Well, she cut a dog's hair, and it wasn't even a groomer. She just cut a dog's hair. And then I went to the barber's on the 3rd of January, and I just sat there, and he looked at it and he was like, "Is one side longer?" And yeah. So just number 2 all over. But yeah, that's the worst.
Mine was as a model. Mine was when I was a model for an educator. It was meant to be like that, sort of like long layers and like kind of like shaggy look. And I ended up with what I could only describe as a really bad mullet when mullets weren't good. My layers were like that short. And then he was meant to dye it like a red sort of colour. And it ended up going just like a matte, disgusting swamp black.
Oh.
And he was brought down from London as a really good educator in our salon. And I had to wear a hat. Literally, I had to wear a hat for ages. I refused to go to work the next 3 days. And my boss was like, "Don't be ridiculous. We're a hair salon." But I don't care. I'm not coming in. I literally flat out refused.
I bet.
So, yeah,
my best friend cut my hair when we were 12, and she got scared halfway through.
Never stop halfway through. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Once you're committed to it, keep going.
And then Tony went out of comfort zone today and done a hairstyle that just popped. Oh yeah, she sent me this on Instagram. It looked great. She like clippered like a bit of her hair, and she wore the other side like really textured, natural wave. Yeah, it looked really cool, Tony.
Good share.
But Lee, if you want to do a little shout out for your Insta, to get all the guys just to follow.
My Insta is at Lee Shaw Hair. It's Lee as it's spelled on the screen. SHAW.
Lea Shaw Hair.
I'll pop it.
You won't regret it.
Oh, thanks, guys. I feel like a rose in between you two thorns today.
Right.
There you go.
I said we should have put it on the end, didn't I? Right. Okay. So that's about it then. That's like nearly an hour and a half. You've talked so much.
Yeah.
Oh, we can talk.
The exact part on coloured hair. Like, oh my God, yeah. That would. Yeah. I
can't wait to have a hair change. I'm gonna have a hair change when we go back. I literally cannot wait.
You should come down to Wales. I'll do it in Wales for you.
Oh, we could do another road trip back to yours in a few years.
That's when we first met, you know.
I know, yeah. Gosh,
so, I don't know. Eddie Yates. Oh God, that Eddie Yates. Remember Eddie Yates from Coronation Street? That was really good. Oh dear. So cool. So next week Paul will be colouring because the mannequin head will have arrived tomorrow morning. Not today.
I'm colouring Ian's shag from last week. So in the comments below this video, if you've got anything you want to see me colour, preferably not sort of like vivids or anything because I'll have to bleach it up a lot, but something you want to see. I know Ian wants me to do a bit of a technique from my course I've got coming up for Joico, so there'll be a twist.
Barista.
Yeah, there'll be a twist to that as well. But anything you want to know after this, just pop it below. But yeah, colouring next week. Yeah, it's been great, Lee.
Lee,
Thanks for having me.
great pleasure to speak to you. Always fun.
Always.
Too.
Always,
So
and we'll speak to you again soon. So that's
We'll
us
do.
done for this week.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lisa just said, thanks guys, and have a great night. So next week it will be, what are we doing, 7 o'clock next week?
Think so, yeah.
So I love rainbow colours. Do that. So I'll do something. I'll do something pretty cool. So yeah, 7 o'clock next week, and we'll be doing a colour live. Ian will be comparing, and we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you
See you
everybody.
later. Bye.
Bye.